"You are mine now," the Mafia boss declared to the obese black waitress. Everyone mocked. She was just trying to survive another shift when bullets started flying. One split-second decision to save his life changed everything. Dragged into his dangerous world, she discovers the man who claimed her like property sees something in her no one else ever has. Behind his cold exterior lies unexpected wounds that mirror her own. As they grow closer, his enemies notice his one weakness. When his own brother betrays them both, blood is spilled and secrets are revealed. The surveillance photos she discovers raise the ultimate question: was she always meant to be a pawn in his game? What happens when the woman claimed by Chicago's most dangerous man decides to claim him right back? And in a world where love and loyalty come with deadly consequences, can they survive the price of belonging to each other? The early morning sun barely penetrated Elysium's tinted windows as Zara pulled her weathered sedan into the employee parking lot. Her muscles ached from yesterday's double shift, but she forced herself to straighten up, checking her reflection in the rearview mirror. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. 4 hours of sleep wasn't nearly enough, but Maya's tuition payment was due next week. Inside the locker room, Zara changed into her black uniform dress, ignoring how the fabric pulled tight across her curves. As she pinned on her name tag, whispers and poorly concealed giggles drifted from around the corner. "I give that chair a month tops before it gives out under her," Jessica's nasally voice carried clearly. "Remember what happened at the Crown when that plus-size server crashed right through their dining chair?" "God, how embarrassing," Amanda replied. "Vincent only keeps her because she's been here forever. Can you imagine what the Vitalis will think tonight?" Zara's hands trembled slightly as she smoothed her hair, but she lifted her chin and walked past them without acknowledgement. Their whispers followed her like poison darts, but she'd developed thick skin over the years. Their words couldn't hurt more than watching Maya cry over their parents' funeral bills 3 years ago. The morning rush brought the usual parade of demanding customers. A businessman snapped his fingers to get her attention, while a ladies' group sent back their eggs 3 times. Zara handled each situation with practiced grace, her smile never wavering. "More coffee, Mr. Harrison?" she asked the businessman who'd earlier complained about her blocking his view of the street. "Try not to knock anything over," he muttered. But Zara's steady hand poured perfectly, not a drop spilled. During her brief break, she slipped into the kitchen where Eduardo was attacking a mountain of dishes. The elderly dishwasher's face brightened when she entered. "Ah, mi pequeña chef." He wiped his hands on his apron. "I saved those wild mushrooms from yesterday's delivery. Show me what magic you can make." For 15 precious minutes, Zara lost herself in creating, combining the mushrooms with herbs and cream into a delicate sauce that made Eduardo's eyes close in bliss when he tasted it. "Such talent," he said softly. "You should be running your own kitchen, not serving others." Zara's smile turned wistful. Maybe in another life where culinary school didn't cost as much as a house. She squared her shoulders. Maya's education comes first. She'll be an amazing nurse. The afternoon lull was interrupted by Vincent calling an emergency staff meeting. The restaurant manager's thin face was pinched with anxiety as he paced before them. "Tonight's reservation is for the Vitali family," he announced, causing a ripple of nervous murmurs. Everyone knew the Vitalis controlled half of Chicago's underworld. "They've booked the entire restaurant. Everything must be perfect." His gaze landed on Zara, lips curling slightly. "Williams, come here." Zara approached, already knowing what was coming. Vincent lowered his voice. "I don't want you visible tonight, but we're short-staffed and you know the wine list better than anyone. You'll handle their section, but for God's sake, try to be less noticeable. We can't afford to embarrass ourselves." "Yes, sir," Zara replied neutrally, though her stomach clenched. She'd learned long ago that arguing only made things worse. As the staff dispersed to prepare for evening service, Eduardo caught her arm in the kitchen. His weathered face was creased with concern. "Be careful tonight, pequeña," he warned, squeezing her hand. "Those men, they notice too much, and noticing can be dangerous." Zara nodded, trying to ignore the cold weight settling in her chest. She'd worked private events for powerful people before. She could handle this. She had to. Maya's future depended on it. As afternoon sunlight slanted through the windows, Zara methodically checked each table in her section, ensuring every glass sparkled and every piece of silverware was perfectly aligned. She reviewed the wine list one more time, though she'd memorized it months ago. Whatever these dangerous men might think of her appearance, they wouldn't find fault with her service. The rest of the staff moved around her in barely contained panic, but Zara maintained her calm efficiency. She'd survived years of judgment and cruelty with her dignity intact. She could survive one more night of trying to be invisible. Besides, she thought with grim humor, according to most people, that's what she did best. The heavy glass doors swung open precisely at 8, admitting a wave of tension that silenced the restaurant. Dante Vitale entered first, his presence filling the space like a gathering storm. His black suit, perfectly tailored to his powerful frame, absorbed light rather than reflected it. Behind him, 6 men moved with practiced coordination, automatically positioning themselves throughout the space. Vincent hurried forward, wringing his hands. "Mr. Vitale, welcome to Elysium. We're so honored." Dante's dark gaze cut through the manager's, babbling like a blade through silk. Without a word, he shifted his attention to Zara, who stood quietly beside the host stand. His eyes met hers with an intensity that should have made her look away. Instead, she held his gaze, even as her heart hammered against her ribs. "Good evening," she said, her voice steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Your private dining room is ready. Would you like to start with the wine selection?" Something flickered in Dante's expression. Surprise, perhaps, at her composure. He gave a slight nod. Behind him, his younger brother Luca made a show of removing his designer sunglasses, despite the evening hour. "Brother, let's get the crystal flowing. Nothing but the best for family business, right?" His laugh was too loud, trying too hard. Zara led them to the private dining room, conscious of Dante's presence behind her. The room had been prepared to perfection. Crystal glasses catching the light from the dimmed chandeliers, white linens pristine against the dark wood tables arranged in a U-shape. As the group settled, she noted their positioning. Dante took the center seat, naturally commanding the room. Luca claimed the spot to his right, while an older man, Marco, she'd heard Vincent say, sat to Dante's left. His weathered face held decades of wisdom, and his careful eyes missed nothing. The wine service became a dance of precision. Zara moved smoothly between the men, pouring the vintage Bordeaux Dante had selected with a professional grace that seemed to please Marco, whose subtle nod carried more weight than Luca's theatrical compliments. Throughout the appetizer course, she caught fragments of conversation, business dealings wrapped in metaphor, territory discussions disguised as real estate ventures. But it was during the main course, herb-crusted lamb, that she heard something that made her blood run cold. "The warehouse hit is set for tomorrow," Luca whispered to the man beside him, thinking Zara too far away to hear as she refreshed their water. "Dante won't know until it's done. Better to ask forgiveness than permission, right?" The other man shifted uncomfortably. "The Rossi family won't take this lying down. That's the point." Luca's smile didn't reach his eyes. Zara kept her expression neutral, but her mind raced. The conversation carried the weight of imminent violence, of carefully laid plans about to explode. She'd spent years perfecting the art of being invisible. Now it might save her life. As she returned to the kitchen to prepare the dessert course, the controlled chaos of service was interrupted by movement near the back door. A man she didn't recognize slipped in, his server's uniform too new, his movements too stiff. Years of watching people told her something was wrong before she consciously processed why. His hand moved inside his jacket. Time seemed to slow. Zara saw the glint of metal, remembered Luca's whispered conversation, and understood with crystal clarity that she was watching an assassination attempt unfold. The dessert tray was already in her hands as she emerged from the kitchen. Without conscious thought, she acted. The tray went flying, handmade chocolates and delicate pastries scattering across the floor as she launched herself toward Dante. Her body slammed into his solid frame just as the first shot cracked through the air. They hit the ground together as chaos erupted. Pain bloomed in her shoulder, hot and sharp. More gunshots, screaming, the sound of breaking glass. Dante's face appeared above her, his cold mask shattered by genuine surprise. She tried to focus on his features, but darkness was creeping in at the edges of her vision. The last thing she heard was his voice, deep and urgent. "Get her out of here. Now." Then everything went black. The first sensation was softness, impossibly smooth, sheets against her skin. Zara's eyes fluttered open, immediately squinting against muted lighting that still felt too bright. Her head throbbed, and when she tried to move, pain shot through her left shoulder like lightning. The room slowly came into focus. Cream-colored walls, elegant furniture that wouldn't look out of place in a luxury hotel, and thick carpeting that muffled all sound. But something was wrong. No windows, just tasteful artwork where they should have been. Movement caught her eye. A man in a dark suit standing silently by the door, his presence both professional and menacing. When she shifted again, trying to get a better look at her surroundings, the pain made her gasp out loud. Quick footsteps approached. and a woman in blue scrubs appeared at her bedside. Asian, probably in her 50s, with sharp eyes and an efficient manner that reminded Zara of the nurses at her sister's hospital. "Good, you're awake," the woman said, checking monitors Zara hadn't noticed before. "I'm Dr. Chen. How's your pain level, on a scale of 1 to 10? 8. Zara managed, her throat dry. "Where am I? What happened?" "You're at Mr. Vitali's private residence. You were shot while saving his life." "Doctor." Chen's tone was matter-of-fact, as she adjusted something in Zara's foreline. "The bullet went through your left shoulder. Clean exit wound, no major arterial damage. You're lucky." The memories flooded back. The gunman, the flying dessert tray, Dante's face above hers. Zara's heart rate spiked, making one of the monitors beep faster. "How long have I been here?" She tried to keep her voice steady. "Nearly 24 hours. Doctor." Chen checked her bandages with practiced hands. "The wound is clean, no signs of infection." 24 hours? Panic clawed at Zara's chest. "I need to go. My sister. She'll be worried sick. And I have a shift tomorrow. Today, I need to call work. Mr. Vitali will explain the situation himself." "Doctor," Chen interrupted firmly. "For now, you need to rest and let those stitches do their job." "My phone," Zara said, looking around desperately. "I need to call Maya." "All your belongings are being kept safe," Dr. Chen replied, which wasn't an answer at all. "Try to stay calm. Your blood pressure is already higher than I'd like." The pain medication began to take effect, making Zara's thoughts fuzzy around the edges, but it couldn't dull her growing fear. Maya would be frantic by now. Her little sister had already lost their parents. What must she be thinking? Hours crawled by. Dr. Chen came and went, checking vitals and changing bandages. The man by the door was replaced by another, equally silent guard. Zara dozed fitfully, each time waking with a jolt of panic as she remembered where she was and where she wasn't. The elegant room began to feel like a cage. No windows meant no sense of time passing, but the shadows in the hallway outside her door gradually deepened. Evening then, she'd lost another whole day. When the door finally opened again, the atmosphere in the room changed instantly. Dante Vitali entered with the fluid grace of a predator, his presence filling the space in a way that had nothing to do with his physical size. The guard straightened to attention. Even Dr. Chen's professional detachment wavered slightly. Dante's dark gaze swept the room before settling on Zara. He moved toward her bed with measured steps, his perfectly tailored suit without a single wrinkle despite the late hour. His face gave nothing away as he assessed her condition. "Report," he said to Dr. Chen, though his eyes never left Zara's face. "Stable. The wound is clean, no complications. She'll need physical therapy once the stitches heal, but I expect a full recovery." Dante nodded once, dismissing the doctor without words. "Doctor." Chen gathered her things and left, the guard following silently in her wake. The door closed with a soft click that somehow sounded final. For a long moment, Dante simply looked at her. Zara forced herself to meet his gaze, though her heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. Up close, his features were almost beautiful in their severity. High cheekbones, strong jaw, eyes so dark they seemed to absorb light. "You saved my life," he finally said, his voice deep and controlled. Something shifted in his expression, intensity replacing cold assessment. "Do you understand what that means in my world?" Before Zara could find her voice to respond, he continued, "It means you are mine now." His words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning Zara couldn't fully grasp. She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. The pain medication made everything feel slightly unreal, like a dream, except for Dante's presence, which was undeniably, dangerously solid. He stood close enough now that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle that made her think of dark woods and smoke. The mattress dipped slightly as he sat on the edge of her bed, his proximity sending her pulse racing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. "Your sister is safe," he said, apparently reading the question in her eyes. "She's being watched over. Your job has been informed you're taking a leave of absence. All your responsibilities have been handled." The relief of knowing Maya was okay warred with fresh alarm at his words. Being watched over? Leave of absence? Her head spun with implications. "I'm not yours or anyone's," Zara said, summoning defiance despite the way her shoulder throbbed and her head spun from medication. The words came out steadier than she felt, a small victory. Dante's expression remained unchanged, but something dangerous flickered in his dark eyes. He pulled a chair beside her bed with deliberate grace, the soft scrape of wood against carpet loud in the silent room. His scrutiny was physical weight as he studied her, letting the silence stretch until it nearly suffocated. "The men who attacked tonight," he finally said, each word precise, "were from the Rossi family. They've been testing boundaries lately. Your presence complicated their plans." "I was just doing my job," Zara countered, though they both knew that wasn't true. Waitresses didn't typically tackle armed gunmen. "You're a witness now. More importantly, you're known to have intervened. That makes you a target." He leaned forward slightly, his presence overwhelming even in that small motion. "The Rossis don't leave loose ends." Zara's throat went dry. "I wouldn't say anything. Your silence isn't the issue. Your very existence is an insult to them now, a reminder of their failure." His lips curved slightly, but it wasn't quite a smile. "Which means you require protection. My protection. I can't just disappear. I have responsibilities. My job. My sister's tuition." "Maya Williams," Dante interrupted smoothly, 20 years old, second-year nursing student at Northwestern. Currently maintains a 4 gigapascals while working part-time at the campus coffee shop. "Your parents died 3 years ago. Car accident on I-90. You gave up your culinary school scholarship to support her education." His recitation was casual, as if he wasn't dismantling her life piece by piece. "You work double shifts at Elysium, plus weekend catering when available. Your next tuition payment is due in 3 weeks. Ice slid down Zara's spine. "How do you—" "I make it my business to know everything." He reached into his suit jacket, removing an envelope. "Your sister's tuition has been paid in full for her remaining 2 years. Consider it a thank you for your quick thinking tonight." Zara stared at the envelope, mind reeling. Her primary leverage for leaving, her responsibility to Maya, neutralized with a single gesture. "I need to call her. She'll be worried sick." Dante considered her for a moment, then nodded once. He produced a phone from his pocket, already dialing. "You'll tell her you've accepted a private chef position that required immediate relocation. The opportunity was too good to pass up." His tone made it clear this wasn't a suggestion. "Keep it brief," Maya answered on the first ring. "Hello? Maya, I'm so sorry I didn't call sooner." Zara's voice cracked slightly. "Zara, where are you? I've been calling for hours." "I'm okay, I promise. Something unexpected came up. A private chef position. It's an amazing opportunity, but I had to start right away." The lies felt like ash in her mouth. "What? But your job at Elysium, it's all been handled," Zara said quickly, seeing Dante's warning look. "The pay is incredible, Maya. More than enough for your tuition. I'll call again soon, okay? I love you." She ended the call before her sister could ask more questions, before her own voice could betray her. Dante took the phone back, tucking it away. "Rest," he commanded, standing. "Dr. Chen will return shortly." The moment he left, Zara pushed herself up, ignoring the stabbing pain in her shoulder. Her legs shook as she stood, but determination drove her forward. The guard outside her door was gone, probably changed shifts. This might be her only chance. She made it down 2 hallways and a flight of stairs, each step sending fresh waves of pain through her body. The mansion was massive, all gleaming hardwood and priceless art. Just when she spotted what looked like a front door, strong hands gripped her arms. 2 security guards appeared from nowhere, supporting her as her legs finally gave out. Instead of returning her to the bedroom, they guided her to an elaborate dining room where Dante sat at the head of a long table, as if he'd been waiting. "Your spirit is unexpected," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him, where a meal had been set. Steam rose from what smelled like homemade soup. "But understand this. In my world, debts must be paid. Your life belongs to me now, whether you accept it yet or not." Zara gripped the back of the chair, knuckles white. "I don't belong to anyone. I won't be your prisoner." "Prisoner?" Something like amusement crossed his face. "No, Kara. You're under my protection. There's a difference." He indicated the chair again. "Sit. Eat. You'll need your strength to heal." The guards still flanked her, making it clear sitting was not optional. The soup was perfect, chicken and herbs, clearly homemade. Even through her fear and anger, Zara's trained palate recognized the quality. "Your personnel file at Elysium," Dante said conversationally, "mentions several incidents where you corrected the kitchen's seasoning. Apparently, you have quite the palate." Zara set down her spoon. "You really do know everything, don't you?" "Knowledge is survival." He studied her over his wine glass. "You'll find I'm thorough in all things, including protection of what's mine." "I'm not mine," His smile was sharp. We'll see. Sunlight filtered through heavy curtains as Zara paced her luxurious prison, shoulder throbbing despite the pain medication. After a sleepless night weighing increasingly impossible options, she'd reached her breaking point. I need to speak with Mr. Vitali, she told the guard stationed outside her door. Now. To her surprise, he immediately spoke into his earpiece. Minutes later, 2 suited men escorted her through the mansion's maze-like corridors to a massive study lined with leather-bound books. Dante sat behind an imposing mahogany desk, reviewing documents. He didn't look up immediately, letting the silence stretch until Zara's nerves nearly snapped. You requested an audience? His tone suggested such boldness was unprecedented. I can't stay here. Zara forced herself to meet his penetrating gaze. I understand the situation is complicated, but I'll sign whatever papers you need. I'll swear to absolute secrecy about everything I saw. Just let me return to my life. Dante studied her for a long moment. Very well. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket. Come with me. What? Where? You wish to return to your life. I'll show you exactly what that means now. Minutes later, Zara found herself in the back of a sleek Mercedes, bulletproof glass separating them from the driver. They wound through Chicago's morning traffic, the familiar streets becoming increasingly surreal from inside Dante's fortified vehicle. As they approached her neighborhood, Zara's heart stopped. Emergency vehicles crowded the street, lights still flashing. Where her apartment building had stood was now a blackened skeleton, smoke curling from the ruins. No. The word escaped as barely a whisper. My enemies are thorough, Dante said quietly. They identified you within hours of the restaurant incident. The bomb was meant to ensure no loose ends. Oh God. Zara pressed her hand against the window, watching firefighters dig through the wreckage. My neighbors, were there any? The building was evacuated in time. Anonymous tip to emergency services. His jaw tightened. I may be a monster, Kara, but I don't target innocents. The devastating reality crashed over her. She had nowhere to go. Unknown enemies wanted her dead. And Maya, my sister? Under surveillance since the attack. She's safe at her dorm, unaware of any danger. She'll remain safe as long as you cooperate. Zara slumped back against the leather seat, defeat settling heavy in her chest. I don't have a choice, do I? There's always a choice, but only one that ensures survival. His phone buzzed. After a brief conversation in Italian, he turned to her. Family dinner tonight. You'll attend. Back at the mansion, a stylish woman named Sophia appeared to help Zara prepare. As she sorted through designer dresses, she quietly explained the complex dynamics of Vitali family gatherings. Don't speak unless spoken to. Keep your eyes down around the older generation, they're traditional. And whatever happens, stay close to Dante. The emerald silk dress Sophia selected fit perfectly, though Zara suspected Dante had her measurements taken while she was unconscious. The thought should have disturbed her more than it did. The family gathered in a formal dining room that could have hosted a state dinner. Dante's uncle Salvatore commanded one end of the table, his weathered face carrying decades of authority. Cousins and their spouses filled the sides, all designer labels and careful manners masking predatory assessment of the outsider in their midst. Luca arrived last, swagger barely hiding his fury at finding Zara seated at Dante's right hand. Throughout the elaborate meal, his gaze burned into her, making her skin crawl. The breaking point came during dessert. Luca reached across the table for the wine, his movement deliberately clumsy. Red liquid splashed across Zara's dress, drawing gasps from several women. Oops. Luca's smile was cruel. Though really, the stain hardly matters on something stretched so tight. Brother, surely there are more. Suitable companions worth the risk of keeping around? The room went deadly silent. Dante moved with terrifying speed, grabbing Luca's wrist and applying precise pressure. The crack of breaking bone echoed off marble floors. No one touches what belongs to me. Dante's voice was conversational, as if discussing the weather rather than maiming his own brother. He released Luca's shattered wrist and turned to Zara, his touch impossibly gentle as he helped her stand. Come, Kara. Sophia will have another dress ready. As they left the dining room, Luca's pained cursing following them, Zara processed the whiplash contrast of Dante's violence and tenderness. The same hands that broke bones with clinical efficiency now guided her with exquisite care, one resting protectively at the small of her back. She'd witnessed firsthand the deadly consequences of being claimed by Dante Vitali. But she'd also seen the equally deadly consequences of not having his protection. The realization settled like lead in her stomach. She needed him as much as he seemed determined to possess her. In her room, Sophia arrived with a midnight blue dress, clucking sympathetically over the ruined emerald silk. As she helped Zara change, her experienced hands gentle around the healing gunshot wound, she whispered, "I've never seen him defend anyone like that, not even family." The words hung in the air, heavy with implications Zara wasn't ready to examine. She smoothed the new dress, its fabric cool against her heated skin, and tried not to think about the way Dante's eyes had blazed with equal parts rage and possession. Sunlight filtered through gauzy curtains as Zara woke, momentarily disoriented by the luxurious surroundings. Her shoulder ached less today, the pain dulled to a persistent throb rather than the sharp agony of previous days. A soft knock preceded Sophia's entrance. "Good morning. I've brought your new wardrobe." She gestured to several garment bags laid across a settee. "And this note from Mr. Vitali." The heavy cream-colored paper bore precise handwriting. 10 a.m. Downstairs. Brief and commanding, like the man himself. Zara selected black pants and a sage green sweater from the new clothes, all perfectly sized, another reminder of how thoroughly Dante had investigated her life. The outfit felt like armor as she descended the grand staircase at exactly 10 a.m. Dante waited in the foyer, his usual black suit impeccable. "You're punctual. Good." His gaze swept over her appearance, expression unreadable. "Come, you should understand the boundaries of your new home." He led her through the mansion's first floor, pointing out permitted areas. The formal living room with its museum-worthy art collection, a wood-paneled library filled with leather-bound volumes, a conservatory bathed in natural light. "The west wing is off-limits," he stated, indicating a closed door, "as are the third floor and basement. Security will stop you if you attempt to access them." The tour continued outside, where manicured gardens stretched toward a high stone wall, topped with subtle but obvious security measures. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter, their presence a constant reminder of both protection and containment. "The grounds are yours to enjoy between sunrise and sunset," Dante explained, always with an escort, of course. Zara's fingers traced a rose petal, its velvet softness contrasting with the thorns beneath. Like everything in Dante's world, beauty and danger intertwined. He guided her back inside and down a hallway she hadn't noticed before. "I've saved this for last." The door opened to reveal a kitchen that made her breath catch. Professional-grade everything. Gleaming Viking ranges, double ovens, an island topped with pristine marble. The kind of kitchen she'd dreamed of while working in cramped restaurant backstations. "Your culinary talents have been noted," Dante said, watching her reaction closely. "This space is yours to use as you wish." Zara turned to face him, suspicious. "Why? What do you expect in return?" An occupied guest is less likely to attempt ill-advised escapes. His lips curved slightly. "Consider it mutually beneficial." He left her there, surrounded by top-of-the-line equipment and possibilities she'd never had access to before. Refusing to be bought so easily, she retreated to her room, pacing restlessly for hours. But the kitchen called to her like a siren song. By late afternoon, she found herself drawn back, running her hands over smooth countertops and professional tools. Cooking had always been her escape, her art, her meditation. Almost against her will, she began exploring the fully stocked pantry and refrigerator. Ideas sparked as she discovered premium ingredients. Fresh herbs, imported olive oil, pristine produce. Her hands moved automatically, chopping and measuring with practiced precision. She lost herself in the familiar rhythm of creation. The sizzle of garlic and oil, the steady knife work reducing vegetables to uniform pieces, the careful layering of flavors. Time disappeared as she crafted an elaborate risotto, the kind she'd only read about in culinary magazines. So absorbed was she in plating the final dish, Zara didn't notice Dante's arrival until his voice broke the kitchen's peaceful atmosphere. "That smells extraordinary." She startled, nearly dropping the microgreens she'd been arranging. He stood in the doorway, jacket removed and sleeves rolled up, looking almost human. "I didn't make it for you," she said quickly, though she'd unconsciously prepared 2 portions. "No?" He approached the island, inhaling deeply. "Yet here are 2 plates." Before she could object, he pulled out a stool and sat, clearly expecting to be served. With reluctant grace, she placed 1 plate before him. His first bite was thoughtful, considered. "The balance of flavors is exceptional. You've used saffron?" Surprised by his knowledge, Zara found herself explaining her technique, the discussion flowing naturally into favorite foods and cooking methods. Dante revealed an unexpected appreciation for cuisine, speaking passionately about restaurants worldwide. "My mother was an excellent cook," he said suddenly, studying his nearly empty plate. After she died, when I was 12, it was all formal dining rooms and staff, prepared meals, correct but soulless. The admission hung between them, unexpectedly personal. Zara gathered their plates, using the activity to hide her reaction to this glimpse beneath his controlled exterior. Dante watched her move through his kitchen with natural grace, something shifting in his expression. "You'll join me for dinner tomorrow." It wasn't quite a command, but neither was it a request. When she hesitated, his voice softened unexpectedly. "Please." That single word, more than any display of power or wealth, caught her off guard. In their brief acquaintance, she'd never heard Dante Vitali say please to anyone. She found herself nodding before she could think. Better of it. His answering smile, brief but genuine, transformed his severe features into something almost approachable. As he left the kitchen, Zara returned to cleaning up, trying to make sense of their interaction. The man who broke his brother's wrist yesterday had just discussed proper risotto technique and said, "Please." The contrast was dizzying. But perhaps that was the most dangerous thing about Dante Vitali. Not his capacity for violence, but these glimpses of humanity that made it harder to remember what he truly was. The next 3 days settled into an unexpected rhythm. Each morning, Zara wandered the permitted areas of Dante's mansion, mapping its luxurious confines in her mind. The East Wing remained strictly off-limits, guarded by stern-faced men in suits, but she discovered quiet corners in the library, a sunroom filled with exotic plants, and a covered patio overlooking manicured gardens. Her afternoons belonged to the kitchen. She experimented with techniques she'd only read about, working with ingredients she could never have afforded before. The staff quickly learned to stay out of her way during these hours, though they eagerly accepted any extra portions she prepared. But it was the evenings that proved most surprising. Dinner with Dante became a constant, their conversations stretching longer each night. He spoke like a professor sometimes, revealing depths of knowledge that seemed at odds with his notorious reputation. "You never attended university?" he asked on the second night, after an unexpected discussion about economic theory. "Community college, briefly," Zara admitted, pushing her dessert around her plate. "Before my parents died." "Yet you understand market forces better than most of my MBA-educated associates." His observation carried no mockery, just quiet assessment. On the third evening, she discovered his passion for classical music when she caught him listening to Bach in his study. He explained the mathematical precision of fugues with such enthusiasm that she found herself genuinely interested, despite her limited musical knowledge. By the fourth day, Zara realized she was actually looking forward to their dinner conversation. She'd planned an ambitious menu, wanting to impress him with a new technique she'd mastered. But 7 o'clock came and went with no sign of Dante. "Mr. Vitali sends his regrets," his housekeeper Maria informed her stiffly. "Business matters require his attention tonight." Zara told herself the sinking feeling in her stomach was relief. A break from pretending their dinners were normal, from ignoring what he really was. Yet she found herself checking the clock repeatedly, unable to settle. By 10, anxiety drove her back to the kitchen. Stress baking had always been her coping mechanism. The rhythmic measuring and mixing, the precise temperatures and timing it all, helped quiet her racing thoughts. She was pulling a third batch of perfectly golden madeleines from the oven when she sensed his presence. Dante stood in the doorway, his usual impeccable appearance slightly disheveled. His dark eyes held shadows she hadn't seen before. But it was the blood on his cuffs that captured her attention, dark stains he hadn't quite managed to clean away. Reality crashed back like a physical blow. This man might appreciate her cooking and discuss classical music, but he was still the head of a criminal empire. Those hands that so carefully held wine glasses had likely ended lives tonight. "You're baking at midnight?" he observed, voice rougher than usual. "And you're killing people," Zara replied, surprising herself with her boldness. "Or having them killed. Does it matter which?" She expected anger or threats. Instead, Dante moved further into the kitchen, rolling up those stained sleeves with deliberate care. "Ask what you really want to know, Zara." "Fine." She set down her baking sheet with a clang. "Is this what business matters always means? Violence? Death? Do you sit and appreciate my cooking with the same hands that—" "Yes." His interruption was quiet but firm. "I am exactly what you think I am. A criminal. A killer when necessary. The monster parents warn their children about." "Then why pretend otherwise?" Zara demanded. "Why discuss economics and art and music like you're not—" "Because I am both," Dante said, moving closer. "The man who orders deaths and the man who appreciates Bach's mathematical precision, the monster who breaks bones and the student who taught himself art history in stolen moments. His eyes held hers. You see only one side and assume it negates the other. Because good people don't kill people. Good people. His laugh held no humor. You still see the world in such simple terms, black and white, good and evil. Are you saying murder can be justified? I'm saying you judge without understanding. He studied her flushed face. You see me as a monster. Perhaps I am. But even monsters have reasons for what they become. Zara gripped the counter behind her. Whether for support or distance, she wasn't sure. And your reasons? What could possibly justify? Be ready at 9 tomorrow morning, Dante cut in. He turned toward the door but paused in the threshold. Then you can judge me with all the facts, not just your assumptions. He left her there, surrounded by the sweet scent of fresh madeleines and the bitter taste of truth. Zara stared at the space where he'd stood, her mind spinning with contradictions. The man who discussed fugues and the man who came home with blood on his sleeves. The criminal who ordered deaths and the secret scholar who taught himself economics. She had been starting to forget what he was, letting their dinners and conversations paint a different picture. Now she couldn't stop seeing those stains on his cuffs, couldn't stop wondering whose blood it was. Yet even as she condemned him, part of her remembered the shadows in his eyes, the weight of untold stories in his voice. What could he possibly show her tomorrow that would explain or justify his violence? More disturbing still, why did she care about his justifications at all? The armored SUV glided through Chicago's morning traffic, its tinted windows concealing the occupants from curious eyes. Zara sat stiffly beside Dante, hyper-aware of his presence and the 4 security men surrounding them. After last night's confrontation, the air between them crackled with unspoken tension. They turned into a neighborhood where graffiti-covered buildings stood like tired sentinels over trash-strewn streets. Broken windows and boarded storefronts told stories of neglect and poverty. Yet amid this urban decay, a modern medical building rose unexpectedly, its clean lines and fresh paint a stark contrast to its surroundings. The Maria Vitali Memorial Clinic, Dante said quietly as they parked. The tenderness in his voice when speaking his mother's name caught Zara's attention. Inside, the clinic hummed with activity. Modern medical equipment filled examination rooms while a diverse staff moved efficiently between patients. In the waiting room, mothers cradled sick children, elderly patients waited for checkups, and workers still in construction gear sought treatment for injuries. We serve over 200 patients daily, explained Dr. Rodriguez, the clinic director. No insurance required, no questions asked. The Vitali family covers all operational costs, Dante added, his hand brushing the small of Zara's back as they toured the facility, including staff salaries and medication. Their next stop was a youth center, where teenagers played basketball in a well-maintained gym. Others gathered in classroom spaces for tutoring or hunched over computers in a modern lab. Before this place opened, these kids had nowhere to go after school, said Marcus, the center's coordinator. Now they have safe spaces, mentoring, sports programs, and legitimate opportunities. Dante finished, leading them to their next destination. The culinary training program occupied a converted warehouse. Industrial kitchens lined one wall while teaching stations filled the main space. Young students in crisp, white uniforms focused intently on their tasks. Chef Antonio, Dante greeted the instructor. How's our newest class progressing? The chef's face lit up. Mr. Vitali, come see what Miguel's doing with his mother's enchilada recipe. Zara watched in fascination as Dante moved among the students, tasting dishes and offering encouragement. He knew each person by name, asking about their families and goals with genuine interest. 87% of our graduates work in legitimate restaurants now, the program director shared proudly. Some even have their own businesses. The ones who showed real promise, Dante added. I personally recommended to contacts at Chicago's top establishments. As they returned to the SUV, Zara's mind wrestled with these revelations. All this good work, she began carefully, yet it's funded by, Sir, their driver interrupted sharply. Black sedan, 3 cars back. They've been following since the clinic. Dante's demeanor shifted instantly from relaxed to predatory. Evasive Route 4, he ordered, then turned to Zara. Hold on. The SUV accelerated smoothly, weaving through traffic with precision. Zara glimpsed their pursuers in the side mirror, 2 men in a black car, gaining ground. Dante took the wheel from his driver, his movements controlled and confident as he executed a series of sharp turns. They shot through yellow lights, cut through alleys, and merged onto the highway only to exit immediately. Zara's heart pounded as they narrowly missed other vehicles. Yet Dante remained eerily calm, his only tell the muscle jumping in his jaw as he concentrated. Finally, after a particularly complex series of maneuvers through side streets, he declared, "We lost them." Instead of returning immediately to the compound, Dante pulled into an empty parking structure. The security team established a perimeter, leaving them alone in the SUV. Silence stretched between them, broken only by their gradually steadying breaths. Zara studied Dante's profile as he stared straight ahead, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Not everything is black and white," he finally said, answering her interrupted question from earlier. "Sometimes you become the monster to keep real monsters at bay." He turned to face her. "The world doesn't protect places like that clinic or those children someone has to." The vulnerability in his dark eyes caught her off guard. This was a side of Dante Vitali few ever witnessed, the man behind the carefully constructed walls of power and control. "You asked why I do what I do," he continued. "Every program you saw today exists because my organization provides protection and funding. The clinic treats gang members' families alongside law-abiding citizens because that's how we maintain peace. The youth center keeps kids off streets where rival families would recruit them. The culinary program gives them alternatives to crime." "But the violence," Zara pressed, "the blood on your hands, is sometimes necessary to maintain this delicate balance." His voice hardened slightly. "Other families would destroy everything we've built. They'd turn those neighborhoods into war zones, those kids into soldiers, those clinics into drug fronts." He met her gaze directly. "Judge me if you want, but at least now you've seen both sides." Zara sat back, processing everything she'd witnessed. The respect and gratitude in people's eyes when they saw Dante. The real impact of these programs on the community. The complex moral arithmetic that governed his world. "The funding," she said slowly. "It all comes from illegal activities?" "Most of it," he acknowledged. "Though we've begun legitimizing certain business interests, it's a gradual process." The irony wasn't lost on her criminal enterprises funding legitimate opportunities, violence protecting places of healing, a feared mob boss ensuring children had safe spaces to play and learn. The kitchen had become Zara's sanctuary over the past week. Here, amid gleaming copper pots and premium ingredients, she found a slice of normalcy in her surreal new life. The staff had quickly learned to anticipate her creations, lingering hopefully whenever delicious aromas wafted through the compound. Today she was perfecting a new pasta recipe when Sophia bustled in, her silver hair escaping its neat bun. The housekeeper's weathered face brightened at the sight of fresh focaccia cooling on the counter. "Ah, Piccola, you spoil us all," Sophia said, accepting the piece Zara offered. She settled onto a kitchen stool, a familiar routine they'd developed during quiet afternoons. "The whole household was talking about your tiramisu yesterday," Sophia continued. "Even Marco mentioned it, and that man usually only notices security reports." Zara smiled, kneading the pasta dough with practiced movements. "I've been allowed to video call Maya twice now. It helps, being able to see her face." "Your sister is safe at her school?" Sophia asked carefully. "Yes, though it's hard maintaining the private chef story. She's too smart not to suspect something's off." Zara sighed, dusting flour across the marble counter. Sophia watched her work for a moment before speaking softly. "You remind me of his mother, you know. Cecilia loved to cook too. This kitchen was her favorite place until..." She trailed off, ancient pain flickering across her features. "What happened to her?" Zara asked, though she dreaded the answer. Official report said accident, but Dante, he was only 12, he never believed it. Found her at the bottom of the stairs one morning. Sophia crossed herself. His father had been in one of his rages the night before. Zara's hands stilled on the dough. "Dante was 12? Sophia nodded. Became a different boy after that. Started putting himself between his father and Luca, taking the worst of it. Even at that age, so protective of his little brother." She shook her head. "Sometimes I think that's why Luca resents him. Now the debt of that protection weighs heavy." Before Zara could respond, one of the security staff appeared. "Mr. Vitali requests your presence in his study, Miss Williams." In Dante's oak-paneled study, he sat behind his massive desk, reading glasses perched on his nose as he reviewed documents. The sight somehow humanized him in a way his usual intimidating presence didn't. "I'm hosting an important business dinner tomorrow night," he said without preamble. "I'd like you to prepare the meal." Zara's pulse quickened. This wasn't just dinner, this was her chance to prove her value beyond being the woman who'd accidentally saved his life. "How many guests?" she asked, mind already cataloging possibilities. 8. Some have traditional tastes, others prefer innovation. I trust your judgment. His lips curved slightly. You've certainly impressed the household. The next day, Zara threw herself into preparation with focused intensity. She chose dishes that balanced classic Italian cuisine with subtle modern touches, a delicate seafood risotto, perfectly aged steaks with innovative accompaniments, and a dessert that combined traditional flavors in unexpected ways. As she worked, Sophia fluttered in and out, offering encouragement and shooing away curious staff members. By evening, everything was perfectly timed, each dish emerging exactly as she'd envisioned. The dinner went flawlessly. Even Luca, who dubbed her Dante's saved pet in sneering tones, couldn't find fault with the food. She noted with satisfaction how the conversation flowed easier as the excellent meal softened potentially tense negotiations. As the men moved to Dante's study for business discussions, Marco lingered behind. The consigliere studied her with shrewd eyes that missed nothing. I haven't seen him so at ease in years, he said quietly. You've changed something in him. His expression grew serious. That's a dangerous thing in our world. Change can be weakness. The warning kept Zara awake long past midnight. Finally giving up on sleep, she wrapped herself in a silk robe provided by Sophia and wandered the quiet mansion. Her feet carried her to the library, where warm lamplight spilled from beneath the door. She hesitated, then pushed it open. Dante sat in one of the leather armchairs, crystal tumbler in hand, staring into the darkness beyond the windows. He wore only dress slacks and a partially unbuttoned shirt, his usual perfect composure slightly undone. When she moved to retreat, his voice stopped her. Stay, please. Something in his tone, a rare note of solitude, made her pause. After a moment's consideration, she stepped fully into the room and closed the door behind her. The library lay hushed around them, rows of leather-bound books disappearing into shadows beyond the lamp's glow. The subtle scent of aged paper mixed with the peaty aroma of whatever Dante was drinking. In the library's dim light, Zara sank into the leather armchair across from Dante. The only sounds were the gentle clink of ice in his glass and the distant tick of an antique clock. She studied his profile, noticing how the lamplight softened his usually sharp features. Why are you awake at this hour? He asked, breaking the comfortable silence. Marco's warning kept me up, she admitted. About change being weakness. Dante's lips curved slightly. Marco sees threats everywhere. It's what's kept him alive so long. He took a slow sip from his glass. And you? What keeps you awake usually? Cooking ideas mostly, or worrying about Maya. Zara tucked her legs beneath her, the silk robe whispering with the movement. What about you? The past, the future, the weight of responsibilities. His voice carried a rare vulnerability. I never wanted this life, you know. What did you want? At 19, I was studying economics, had plans to legitimize our businesses, transform the family legacy. His expression darkened. Then rivals held me captive for weeks. By the time I escaped, those dreams seemed childish. Zara leaned forward. What happened? They wanted information about our operations. I refused. He stared into his glass. When I finally got home, my father said my capture proved I was too soft, called me weak for wanting change. A muscle ticked in his jaw. 6 years later, he was assassinated. I took control at 25. I'm sorry, Zara said softly. Don't be. He was a brutal man. Dante's eyes met hers. Sophia told you about my mother? Zara nodded. What about you? He asked, clearly wanting to change the subject. What dreams did you abandon for your sister? I was finalist in a major cooking competition. Grand prize was culinary school tuition and an apprenticeship at a Michelin-starred restaurant. She smiled sadly. The finals were the day after my parents' funeral. I withdrew. You could still pursue that dream now. Maya comes first. Always has. Dante studied her for a long moment. Would you like to see her? Zara's heart leaped. What? I can arrange a supervised visit at her university campus tomorrow. He held up a hand as she started to protest. With proper security, of course. The next morning, Zara found herself in one of Dante's armored SUVs, flanked by security as they drove to Maya's campus. Her sister was waiting at a predetermined meeting spot, squealing with joy when she saw Zara. You look amazing, Maya exclaimed, hugging her tight. This private chef gig must be treating you well. They settled at an outdoor cafe table, security maintaining a discreet perimeter. Maya chatted about her nursing studies, while Zara carefully answered questions about her new job. There's something you're not telling me, Maya said suddenly, lowering her voice. Are you in trouble? No, nothing like that, Zara assured her. The family I work for is just very private. Before Maya could press further, one of the security team approached urgently. Miss Williams, we need to leave. Now. What's wrong? Zara asked, but they were already being hustled toward the vehicles. They barely made it 3 blocks before the attack began. 2 black SUVs boxed them in while motorcycles appeared alongside, their riders opening fire. Zara's security team responded instantly, but these weren't amateur hitmen. Take the next right, Zara shouted to the driver, remembering the neighborhood from her restaurant days. There's a narrow alley that loops behind the buildings. The driver followed her direction, the tight turn forcing their pursuers to slow. They gained precious seconds, but one motorcycle caught up. The rider reached for their car door. You're dead either way, he snarled through the window. This is just the beginning, he can't protect you forever. A shot from their security took him down, and they finally lost the remaining attackers in the maze of city streets. Back at the compound, Dante paced his office like a caged animal, while Zara sat shakily in a chair. She'd never seen him so unsettled. You're moving to my wing tonight, he announced. No discussion. Is that really necessary? He whirled to face her, his composure cracking. They targeted you specifically today, not me, you. His eyes blazed with frightening intensity. I won't lose. He caught himself, then continued more controlled. I won't fail in my duty to protect you. Pack your things. You move tonight. Dante, she said softly. What aren't you telling me? He braced his hands on his desk, shoulders tense. The attack at the restaurant wasn't random. Someone knew I'd be there. Someone who's been trying to destroy everything I've built. He straightened, his expression grim. And now they're using you to get to me. Why me? Because you. He stopped, running a hand through his hair in an uncharacteristically frustrated gesture. Because protecting you has become a vulnerability they think they can exploit. The weight of his words hung between them. Zara remembered Marco's warning about change being weakness, understanding now the dangerous truth behind it. In Dante's world, caring for someone meant giving enemies another target, another way to hurt you. His security chief knocked and entered with urgent updates. While they spoke in rapid Italian, Zara watched Dante's profile, seeing the strain beneath his controlled exterior. She realized that moving her to his wing wasn't just about protection, it was about keeping her close, where he could ensure her safety himself. The thought should have frightened her. Instead, she felt an unexpected flutter in her chest, a warmth that had nothing to do with fear, and everything to do with the way Dante's eyes kept finding hers across the room, as if reassuring himself she was still there, still safe. Thunder cracked overhead as Zara explored her new suite in Dante's private wing. The space dwarfed her previous room, with a marble bathroom larger than her old apartment's entire kitchen. But the luxury couldn't distract from the weight of what this move meant. She was now separated from the rest of the household, isolated with the most dangerous man in Chicago. A shared sitting room connected their quarters, its comfortable sofas and shelves of books creating an oddly intimate atmosphere. Through the French doors, she could see light spilling from Dante's study, his shadow moving across the frosted glass as he worked late into the night. The storm intensified, rain lashing against the windows. Zara couldn't sleep, the day's events replaying in her mind. Instead, she found herself drawn to the private kitchen that adjoined Dante's quarters. Cooking had always calmed her nerves. She was kneading dough for fresh pasta when Dante appeared in the doorway, his tie loosened and sleeves rolled up. It's 3 a.m., he observed. Couldn't sleep, she admitted. Pasta helps. He watched her work for a moment. Make enough for 2? That night became their new pattern. Formal dinners in the main dining room gave way to quiet meals in this private space. Zara found herself studying Dante when he wasn't looking, the tension in his shoulders, the dark circles under his eyes growing deeper each day. One evening, as she set a plate before him, she finally asked, "When did you last sleep properly?" His fork paused halfway to his mouth. "Sleep is a luxury I can't afford right now." "The attacks? We found the leak." His voice was tight with controlled anger. "Someone close to the family has been feeding information to our enemies. They knew about the restaurant meeting, your apartment, the campus visit, all inside information." Lightning flashed, illuminating the exhaustion on his face. "Until we identify the traitor, no one is safe." That night, Zara jerked awake, screaming, her shoulder burning with phantom pain. The restaurant shooting played in vivid detail the gunman's face, the deafening crack of bullets, the searing agony as one tore through her flesh. Her door burst open, Dante filling the frame with gun drawn. His eyes scanned the room for threats before landing on her trembling form. "Nightmare," she managed, wrapping her arms around herself. He lowered the weapon but didn't leave. Instead, he moved cautiously to sit on the edge of her bed. "Do you have them often?" "Sometimes, usually about the shooting." Lightning illuminated them in stark bursts. In the artificial daylight, Zara noticed his partially unbuttoned shirt revealed a network of scars across his chest. Following her gaze, Dante's hand moved to button his shirt, but Zara caught his wrist. "Wait." He went perfectly still as she reached out, fingers hovering over the marked skin. "May I?" After a long moment, he gave a slight nod. With gentle touches, she traced the favor. Scars some thin and precise, others jagged and brutal. "I was 19, he said, voice low. "A rival family took me, kept me for weeks. They wanted information, wanted to break me." His jaw tightened. "My father eventually negotiated my release, but I wasn't the same person who went in." "They hurt you," Zara whispered. "They tried to destroy me. Instead, they created this version of me." His eyes met hers in the darkness. The monster who could protect his family, no matter the cost. Zara's hand stilled over his heart. "You're not a monster." "No?" His smile was bitter. "You've seen what I'm capable of. I've seen you fund medical clinics in poor neighborhoods. I've seen you protect people who can't protect themselves." Her fingers resumed their gentle exploration of his scars. "I've seen you rush to my room in the middle of the night because I had a nightmare." Thunder rolled overhead as something shifted in Dante's expression. His hand covered hers where it rested on his chest, warm and calloused. The contact sent electricity through her that had nothing to do with the storm. "You see too much," he murmured. "Or maybe just enough." They sat in charged silence, neither moving to break contact. Rain drummed against the windows, creating a cocoon of isolation around them. In this moment, there were no rival families, no threats, no complicated power dynamics, just two people who understood what it meant to carry invisible wounds. "Your shoulder," Dante said, finally, his free hand ghosting over where the bullet had struck her. "Does it still hurt?" "Sometimes. Mostly in my dreams." His thumb traced absent patterns on her knuckles where their hands remained joined. "The mind holds pain longer than the body. Is that why you don't sleep?" "I sleep." His lips quirked slightly. "Just not well." Another crack of thunder made Zara jump. Without thinking, she gripped Dante's hand tighter. He responded by moving closer, solid and reassuring. "Would you?" She hesitated, then pushed forward. "Would you stay? Just until the storm passes?" The question hung between them, loaded with implications neither was ready to address. After what felt like eternity, Dante shifted to lean against the headboard, not releasing her hand. "Until the storm passes," he agreed softly. The next evening brought another storm, this one fiercer than before. Wind howled through the compound's grounds, and shortly after dinner, the lights flickered once before, plunging the entire mansion into darkness. Zara lit candles in her room, their warm glow creating dancing shadows on the walls. The shared sitting room connecting her suite to Dante's caught her attention, a harsh breath, almost like a gasp, carried through the partially open door. She found Dante standing rigidly by the window, his silhouette sharp against occasional flashes of lightning. His hands gripped the windowsill, knuckles white with tension. His normally perfect posture seemed brittle, like a statue about to crack. "Dante?" she called softly. He didn't respond, his eyes fixed unseeing on the storm-dark grounds. His breathing came in controlled, measured counts too controlled, like someone fighting panic. Understanding dawned. The darkness, the confinement, it must be triggering memories of his captivity. Without thinking, Zara approached him slowly, making sure her footsteps were audible on the hardwood floor. "Focus on my voice," she said, stopping within arm's reach. "You're in your home. You're safe." She hesitated before adding, "You're not alone." His jaw clenched. "I know where I am." "Then look at me." Several heartbeats passed before he turned. In the candlelight, his face was all sharp planes and shadows, but his eyes held a vulnerability she'd never seen before. "The dark," he said, voice rough. "Sometimes it takes me back there." Zara reached for his hand, feeling the tremors he was trying to suppress. "Tell me what you need." Instead of answering, he pulled her closer, until she could feel the rapid beating of his heart. One hand cupped her face with impossible gentleness, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. "You," he whispered, and kissed her. The first touch of his lips was devastating. All the tension between them, all the careful boundaries they'd constructed, shattered in an instant. Zara melted into him as the kiss deepened, years of self-consciousness about her body falling away under his passionate reverence. His hands roamed her curves with wonder, like he was memorizing every inch. When she started to shy away from his touch on her softer areas, he pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. "Beautiful," he breathed, voice rough with desire. "The most beautiful woman I've ever seen." He backed her slowly toward his bedroom, pausing only to light more candles. In their warm glow, he undressed her with reverent care, his lips and hands erasing years of cruel comments about her weight. Every inch of skin he revealed earned new praise, new worship. "Mine," he whispered against her neck, her breasts, her thighs. Not a command or a claim, a prayer of gratitude. The storm raged outside as they lost themselves in each other. Lightning illuminated their entwined bodies in brief, bright moments. Thunder swallowed their gasps and moans. Rain drummed against the windows in counterpoint to their racing hearts. Afterward, they lay tangled in his silk sheets, Zara's head on his chest as he traced patterns on her back. The candles had burned low, casting everything in soft, intimate light. "Stay," he murmured into her hair. Not an order, a request. She pressed closer in response, feeling his arms tighten around her. Morning brought clear skies and restored power. Zara woke alone but found a note on the pillow beside her. "Shower, then join me for breakfast." She found him in his private dining room, already dressed for the day in one of his impeccable suits. His eyes darkened appreciatively as she entered, wearing one of his shirts over her own clothes. "Good morning," he said, pulling out her chair. They shared coffee and fresh pastries delivered by discreet staff, neither quite sure how to navigate this new territory between them. The silence was comfortable, though, filled with shared glances and small smiles. When Marco arrived unexpectedly with urgent business, Dante rose with obvious reluctance. He kissed her goodbye with natural ease that surprised them both, then followed his consigliere from the room. Alone, Zara wandered into Dante's study for the first time. The room felt like him, elegant, controlled, with hints of unexpected warmth in the worn leather chairs and well-loved books. She ran her fingers along the spines, smiling at his eclectic collection. Moving to his desk, she examined the personal items there: a silver pen set, a small sculpture that looked ancient, a framed photo of a beautiful woman who had to be his mother. As she leaned closer to study the photograph, her elbow knocked against a stack of folders, papers scattered across the floor. Cursing softly, she knelt to gather them, then froze as she registered what she was seeing. Surveillance photos of her apartment building, taken days before the explosion. Professional shots from multiple angles, with handwritten notes in precise handwriting she recognized from Dante's breakfast note. Notes about structural weaknesses, optimal placement for charges, calculations for blast radius. The implications hit her like a physical blow. The destruction of her home, her last connection to her independent life, hadn't been retaliation from Dante's enemies. It had been carefully orchestrated by Dante himself, designed to remove her final reason to leave. The photos slipped from her numb fingers as memory after memory realigned with sickening clarity. His immediate knowledge of her routine, her sister, her finances, the timing of the explosion, the way he'd used Maya's tuition as both carrot and stick. Zara paced, her sweet like a caged animal, the surveillance photos burning against her skin where she'd hidden them in her clothing. Her mind raced between desperate denial and burning rage. Every tender moment from last night now felt tainted, corrupted by the revelation of Dante's manipulation. She jumped when her phone buzzed a message from Dante asking her to join him for dinner in an hour. Her fingers trembled as she typed back an agreement, buying time to confirm her suspicions. She needed proof beyond these photos, needed to understand the full scope of his deception. In the bathroom, she splashed cold water on her face and stared at her reflection. "Keep it together," she whispered to herself. "Don't let him see." She dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that would hide both the photos and her turmoil. Her hands shook as she applied makeup, covering the shadows under her eyes from hours of anguished pacing. Dante waited in their private dining room, jacket off and sleeves rolled up in casual intimacy that made her stomach clench. He smiled that rare, genuine smile she'd thought was just for her, and pulled out her chair. "I missed you today," he said softly, pouring her wine. Zara forced herself to smile back, to act normal as their first course arrived. She watched him carefully as she steered their conversation toward the apartment explosion, studying his micro-expressions. "It seems strange," she said carefully, "how quickly they found my building that night." Something flickered in his eyes so brief she might have missed it if she hadn't been looking. "Our enemies are unfortunately efficient." The placement of the charges seemed very precise, she pressed, almost surgical in their targeting. His hand paused fractionally while reaching for his wine. You seem very interested in the technical details suddenly. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. He checked the screen and frowned. I need to take this. I'll be right back. The moment he left, Zara slipped from her chair and moved silently to his study. Her heart pounded as she quickly searched his desk, finding a locked drawer that matched the key she'd noticed on his keyring earlier. The folder with her name was thick, filled with surveillance photos and detailed reports. Her hands shook as she read notes about her schedule, her finances, her relationships, dating back weeks before she ever set foot in his restaurant. Pages of analysis about how best to bind her to him once she was under his control. She was so absorbed in the devastating evidence that she almost missed the first alarm. But when the second siren blared, followed by the sound of gunfire, she knew something was terribly wrong. Heavy boots pounded down the hallway. The study door burst open as Dante's security team rushed in. Sir, the perimeter's been breached, multiple entry points. Coordinated attack. Dante appeared behind them, expression cold and focused. Get her to the panic room. Now. 2 guards flanked Zara, hustling her toward the mansion's secure core. Gunfire echoed through the corridors, getting closer. They rounded a corner into the main hallway and stopped dead. A group of armed men blocked their path. And there, stepping out from among them with a satisfied smirk, was Luca. Hello, brother, he drawled, leveling a gun at Dante's chest. Explain yourself, Dante demanded, his voice deadly quiet. Luca's smile widened as he gestured toward Zara. You were becoming weak, compromised by her. The family needed someone strong again. He shrugged. Our new allies agreed. You betrayed your own blood. Dante snarled. For power. I did what was necessary, Luca replied. The mighty Dante Vitali, undone by a fat waitress. It's pathetic. The hallway erupted in violence. Dante's security engaged Luca's men as Dante pushed Zara behind a marble column, shielding her with his body. The air filled with gunfire and shouts. They moved in stages toward the panic room, Dante returning fire, with lethal precision while keeping Zara protected. But they were badly outnumbered. One by one, Dante's loyal guards fell. They were almost to safety when 3 shots rang out in quick succession. Dante jerked, red blooming across his white shirt. His legs buckled as 2 more bullets struck him. No! Zara screamed as he collapsed. Rough hands seized her arms, dragging her away. She fought desperately, but couldn't break free. Dante lay on the marble floor, blood pooling beneath him as he reached toward her with desperate eyes. His lips formed her name, a soundless plea, before his eyes drifted closed. Luca grabbed her face, forcing her to look at him. His eyes glittered with cruel triumph. Your protector is dead. Now you belong to me. His fingers dug painfully into her jaw. And I'm not nearly as gentle as my brother. Zara's mind reeled between the horror of Dante's betrayal and the greater horror of watching him fall. As Luca's men dragged her away, her last view was of Dante's motionless body, sprawled across the blood-stained marble like a fallen king. Through the window of her luxurious prison, Zara watched storm clouds gather over Luca's estate. 3 days had passed since Dante's fall, each hour an eternity of grief and self-recrimination. If she hadn't been so distracted by those surveillance photos, would she have noticed the signs of Luca's betrayal sooner? The door's heavy lock clicked. A guard entered with her dinner tray, followed by Antonio, Luca's inherited chef. His eyes met hers briefly as he set down the covered dishes, a subtle message passing between them. Over the past days, she'd noticed how the house staff, particularly the kitchen workers, performed their duties with rigid compliance masking obvious resentment. Mr. Vitali requests your presence for dinner tomorrow evening, the guard announced. Zara's stomach churned, but she nodded. These forced dinners with Luca had become a twisted ritual, him gloating over his victory while she gathered information about his operation. After they left, she lifted the silver cover. Underneath the perfectly arranged meal, Antonio had tucked a small note. Kitchen secure. Staff loyal to D. That night, Luca's voice echoed up from his study below. My brother was becoming weak, he ranted to someone. The mighty Dante, suddenly concerned with protecting one insignificant woman. It was disgusting. Zara pressed her ear to the floor, straining to hear more. Luca's words confirmed what she'd observed. His resentment went beyond mere power rivalry. He'd hated how Dante changed after meeting her. The next evening, dressed in clothes Luca had provided, Zara was escorted to the formal dining room. He waited at the head of the table, watching her with predatory satisfaction. You look lovely, he said, gesturing to her chair. almost worth all the trouble you've caused. Through the careful dance of dinner service, Zara maintained her facade of defeated compliance while studying the security patterns. Antonio moved efficiently between kitchen and dining room, his presence a reminder of potential allies. Your brother? She ventured carefully. He never suspected your alliance with his enemies? Luca laughed. Dante was too distracted by you to notice much else. Though I must thank you for finding those surveillance photos. Your little discovery kept him from connecting the dots about who really arranged that apartment bombing. Zara's hand froze midway to her wine glass. What? Oh yes, those photos you found? They weren't from before the explosion, they were Dante's investigation into who ordered the bombing against his explicit command. Luca's smile was cruel. I knew destroying your home would force his hand, make him bring you closer. And once you were under his protection, I knew he'd start to change, become vulnerable. You were the perfect weapon against him, and you didn't even know it. That night, Zara couldn't sleep, her mind racing with this new information. She'd suspected Dante of manipulating her with the apartment bombing, when in reality, he'd been investigating Luca's betrayal. The weight of her mistrust felt crushing now. Over the next 2 days, she worked with Antonio to smuggle messages to Dante's loyal capos. The kitchen staff moved with practiced efficiency, passing information through coded food deliveries and disposal runs. Zara was memorizing guard rotations from her window when the first explosion rocked the estate. Gunfire erupted from multiple directions as black-clad figures breached the perimeter. Her door burst open, not a guard, but Antonio himself. Come quickly, he urged, leading her through servants' passages as combat raged through the mansion. They emerged into chaos. Luca's men engaged in fierce firefights with tactical teams bearing the Vitali family crest. And there, moving with lethal grace through the combat, was Dante. He looked thinner, his movements showing traces of his injuries, but his precision was unchanged. His forces moved with surgical efficiency, systematically reclaiming the estate room by room. Zara's heart leaped, then froze as rough hands seized her from behind. Luca pressed a knife to her throat, dragging her into the main hall where Dante would be sure to see. Brother, he called out, voice cracking. Still alive? Let's see how well you shoot with your precious Zara as my shield. The hall fell silent as Dante turned. His eyes met Zara's for one electric moment before focusing on his brother with deadly calm. You always did talk too much, Dante said quietly. The shot was so fast, Zara barely registered it. Luca's grip loosened as he crumpled, the knife clattering harmlessly to the marble floor. A perfect headshot, fired with such precision that Zara felt only the whisper of the bullet's passage. Then Dante was there, his hands gentle as they checked her for injuries. His carefully maintained control cracked as he pulled her close. I thought I lost. You, he whispered against her hair, voice raw with emotion.